Hey guys, I'm Mustached Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Break In. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second, third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth, to my Discord, so we can join, collab, and chill, and do all that cool stuff. And chilling will be reminded at the end of the review. With all that out of the way, let's get into Break In. So, I have not seen any trailers for this whatsoever, just came across it, and I figured, why not review a movie that I just came across? I mean, maybe nobody else will, you know, always give new movies a chance, is what I say. So, with that being said, we actually start with a flash forward of the movie of this woman, the main character's house already being invaded into. So we cut to 12 hours prior with her first arriving back at her house. We learn that her cameras are being worked on and updated with some security. And that she is currently working on getting a divorce with her husband. So, as she's working on some storage stuff, like moving boxes and whatnot, her, being Heather, is joined, and her ex being Robert, I believe. Yes, Robert. He is the one calling in, trying to see if he can patch things up. Meanwhile, at work, her friend slash lawyer, Ellen, tells her to keep things on the down low and to not move things too quickly. When left alone in her house for a little bit when returning from her work, she is snuck in by her new boyfriend named Josh. And I'll put this in quotes now. Boyfriend. So, he talks about how he's been sober for quite a bit, 6 months, and he's ready to offer a performance to her. However, we cut to some individual walking up towards the fence, aka our initial robber, and sneaking in a little bit further. By the time he leaves, by the way, first and foremost, and then that happens. So, we follow her for a bit as she's taking a bath, and then goes to get her delivery. Despite it being off, she takes it in kind and kind of leaves the little, whatever amount you would pay, you know. Anyways, she sees a strange figure outside, then abruptly gets a message from Josh before making any further wonderments of like what's going on. However, she does the next stupid thing and heading outside to ask hello, warranting as if you had seen someone suggesting it, and this was, you know, private property, and you wanted to treat it as such, and you sworn you had seen somebody, and that being in the case of the hello, maybe perhaps a better solution would have been to call the police at this point. But we have to warrant the amount of times that that's going to come into question even further, unfortunately. At least one more additional time before the lines are cut officially in the movie. Or at least we see them officially cut. But, again, we already have a moment in the time where she could do it. So it's already kind of tearing into the movie in a form of criticism. But I wouldn't take this as the worst offense. I think that one would be coming up next. Anyway, she saw, she hears a noise and begins to grab a broom. when hearing the noise, she investigates it to see it's only a cage, like a bird cage hitting a wall. But then she sees something suspicious in her back pool, so she goes to investigate that on her own. So, she sees the figure on her phone, and she rushes outside and then yells at this individual, this break-in person, that she's going to warn to call the police. And then she continues to wait instead of just warning him. She should have just done that directly. Again, now that she has confirmation that that's the case, again, she does the more stupid of things and waits a little bit. So she comes, so he comes up to her from the outside, so they're like face to face on opposing sides, and she locks all the doors just before he can get in each and every one of them. It is only at this point that she finally decides to charge her own phone, which I have to immediately ask, does she not own a home phone for her, like, in-house in case her phone is, like, her cell phone is, like, dying of emergency? Like, why? Why would you not have a house phone? Now, granted, I get it, we don't have a house phone currently, like, right now, but, like, I still have a cell phone on me that I keep charged. So, and if, like, you know, if I saw the figure, instead of warning that figure, I would have just called the police. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, despite my circumstances, I still would have been set, because I don't just leave my phone on to be practically turned off to be charged in that way. Anyway. So now we have to play, unfortunately, the waiting game. So she locks more doors. Getting to the next one, she charges her phone, as I mentioned. And then when she tries to call the 911, officially at this point, it ends in failure anyway. I don't know what that's due to, but whatever. So, this is officially in the part of the movie where we see now the box is cut. So we can give some leniency, but I'm not totally sure, like, we don't see him actually actively cut the box, so it's hard to tell when he did that. I mean, he would have had to have moved up to the house at the very most, so it had to have happened between her spotting him. Like, they had to be in that window of time, I guess, if that were to make any sort of sense. Why he would be so brazen as to be seen, I suppose. But, nonetheless. So she goes up to use a smoke detector, to turn on her smoke detector. And she manages to get it to, go off. However, now I'm not sure how this happens. The robber, well, actually, knowing the, I guess, twist, quote unquote, I guess it could make sense. The robber shuts off the alarm, and then he begins to crowbar the door. And then, but not the window first. He tries the door first, and then tries the windows. But still, too, with the windows not also being like, successful, at least he's trying on his end, despite his lack of success. And boy, great time to be rich, I suppose, because those glass windows are like made out of something harder than glass, I guess. Anyways. So the delivery guy returns because he got like the rest of her stuff, and then she sees him, and then instead of like yelling to him, which would be like the next best thing to do in this scenario, considering, she goes ahead and whispers. What the fuck is this movie doing? And why does it keep making the character do the stupider decision among the two options she had, among whispering, which is the stupid thing to do, and, you know, yelling to be like, hey, call the police, get, you know, this place is being broken into or something. Like, let him know that you don't have the means to call the police and that the house is being invaded. Now, in a bizarre, like, thing of, like, luck, the opposite of luck, unluck, I suppose, is that he is hard of hearing on top of just being whispered to that this is happening. But don't worry, he's dead now, because he gets stabbed in the back. So she ends up near the garage, same as him on the opposing side, and she rushes for the car. But her car's wires have also now already been cut. So she briefly had locked herself outside, but manages to make her way back inside without much of a hassle. So she begins to turn on her own lights, and he warns her that he's here for her specifically, not any of her stuff. So that should be a great indicator as to who this is. It's not like I established another character with a X system in charge, so I wonder who that could possibly be. Anyway, surprises ahead. We arrive back to where we were at the beginning of the movie, finally, where he's drilling at the doorway, as we see from the intro. And now we see her prep up with a knife, and she waits like in front of where he's going to enter from, just waiting there, holding the knife. Not even going to attempt to hide or do a smart thing, but then she decides, oh yes, I can hide eventually. So with that being established, he attempts to... Oh, sorry, I skipped a little bit there. Give me a second. So, he gets in, inside that is, and she's like trying to head back out. And she heads back outside and bumps right back into the body. Meanwhile, while she's running her heels off, not in the figurative sense, but like in the, like, trying to run while heels on, so, you know, little advice for people who have high heels. If you are in the process of being chased, remove your high heels and then run. You'll have an easier time running. Spiral. Shocker. But as we play this game of cat and mouse, essentially, at this point, they're both now outside. And they're like on this patio thing, I guess, where he's like on this top part, and she's like beneath it. So he goes to check beneath, and she literally hides under cardboard successfully. So salute Metal Gear for cardboard boxes being the most elite form of hiding. Unfortunately, it was a flat cardboard box, so it wasn't the best hiding spot in the universe. It was just close enough for her to get away, though. At least at the time. So anyways, with her, she enters back inside, And shortly after, Josh returns to the scene of the movie, and after putting her brain cells together, she instantly blames him for being a part of this, and even attacks her in doing so. Let's see. So he claims, according to her, or according to him, that he received an email from her even though her phone was essentially off the entire time. But then he hears a noise, because the ex, you see, because he's also the one who's actually has been there, he's the guy. So he attempts to go look for whoever this is, because I guess he didn't know that this whole thing was going to be a thing. Anyway. So she enters the second floor, calling out for Josh in a whisper, kind of going back and forth, or at least back on the whole idea that he could be responsible. So I guess there's so much for that. And for some reason, by the way, she no longer has her knife for some reason. Remember, I explicitly told you in my review that she grabbed a knife. Now, she no longer possesses said knife, and the reason she let go of it is a complete mystery to me. That's something you'd probably want to hold on to until the situation's actually, I don't know, over. So, you know, more stupid decisions are being made. So she ends up in one of the rooms and sees his broken phone and begins to cry. She sees this cut box thingamajig, and then this is how she's able to essentially that's kind of where I was like, oh, so she no longer has, again, that knife. She, like, takes her phone, and then with her knowledge of seeing the box, the cable, the Wi-Fi box, or the connection box to online, she goes and sees that's been connected, so she moves all the way back outside to reconnect it, and thus begins to move around the house to look for some bars to get that connection. She's now successful in calling the police. However, during the end of her call, she pops a bottle because, despite her body making contact with an object, she continues to not make sure that she's not doing that, and then it makes a noise. So, you know, awareness equals -1, I suppose. And she manages, by force of tricking him, I suppose, is locking him into one of the rooms, at least for a little while. So he's like, he eventually heads back out and he gets back to his bag. Now I don't understand how this next part works, but just, this is what happens in the movie, and I'm just telling you what happens in the movie. So I guess she turned off all the lights, because the way he's moving around now seems to be akin to, like, being in a completely dark area. Uh, and she turns a red laser on him, and this seems to work well enough to, like, get him to be like, and then proceeds to play loud music. Now, the editing on the music itself isn't loud, but, he's trying to act out as if it's super loud, so I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you, except that's how the scene comes across. The music seems to be at middle volume, but the acting is trying to tell me otherwise. I don't know what else to say on that matter. Anyways, she picks up his knife, and just as she sneaks up to him, her phone rings off with the police trying to make back contact with him. So he drops her phone in this scuffle and gives chase and proceeds to fight her. In the process, they both hear the police sirens at a point within the scuffle, and the robber then proceeds to run out so fast that he proceeds to fall. We see the mask is removed and is confirmed to be dun dun dun, it's been Josh all along. What? I tricked everybody. No, of course not. Well, we learn, because the movie actually doesn't end with this little revelation. Excuse me. So, obviously, we learned more about this guy. On top of that, him being arrested at tons of time. Robert gets there and proceeds to have a drink. And he, like, invited her back to his house, I guess. So he's, like, calling out to Heather being around. She sneaks inside and proceeds to drug him, as he intended to kill her based on the information that she now provides. And that this whole, like, thing about, like, doubling money if your partner is murdered was put together by him. I don't know how that part works, but yeah, it's like a part of the story. Anyway, so yeah, it was the ex all along, and she makes him pay. So she makes her call after the job is done and drives off successfully. And that was Break-In. This movie has quite a few flaws in how these few characters are working both on both ends, from intruder to the person who's house is being broken into. I've always stated as such, I like when characters within the horror context are challenged, when they think smartly, but their opposition also thinks smartly. So it's a strategy of who's outthinking who, rather than both characters are doing. In this case, both characters are doing dumb things, which is leading credence to the opposing side getting a clear advantage at a certain point in the movie. Like her not calling the police immediately, to him kind of just like walking around instead of chasing her for real. There's just so many back and forths of like, the intruder could have did this to end it quicker, she could have done that to end it quicker, all of these things. I like it when movies really get you to be like, okay, like, make it really make the clear line that the intruder broke in, or like broke the phone line even earlier in the movie, to really make it crystal clear. Like actually how the scene of him cutting the wire, actually, or removing the wire rather, although cutting it would have been the smarter, even smarter thing to do, because then she couldn't have done what she did later on and putting it back in. So that's just another level of stupidity on his part, as not even like, on top of just not chasing her later, he could have just prevented her from calling even later in the movie too as well. So yeah, stupidity on both sides. From her to as well, like calling out to that delivery guy and like shouting to him rather than whispering for some stupid reason. There's just so many, like every instance is like, oh, so you're doing the worst of the possible decisions to just really make this super annoying. Got it. So that doesn't do this movie any favors. And the characterization thusly is more so surrounding their stupidity rather than what kind of characters they actually are, which is very insufficient for a movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie like a 3 out of 10. It's not great. Definitely could have been rewritten. Definitely could have had the characters behaving more smart, having that back and forth on both ends be a lot more sophisticated, and that will make the harrowing parts of said break-in, that will have a lot more impact with it, that comes along with the more intensity of a proper back and forth, instead of a back and forth that relies on, again, stupidity. And that's my review of Break-In. If you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. Why don't head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, second to third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server, you can join, collab, and chill, and do all that cool stuff. And until next time, everybody, bye-bye!